They're coming, one by one. Shut up and slow down. Without warning. And when Jin turned his head, his tears were unstoppable. Is this the end of it all? Why exactly at the last minute? Jin's words left the entire crew speechless, the members transfixed, and armies around the world sobbing. What really happened behind that cry? Do you ever imagine a day when the laughter stops, the last camera is turned off, and no more cut is followed by a joke? That day came sooner than expected. But it's not just the end of a program, it's the end of a chapter too long and too painful to call farewell. That day, they all showed up, without one of them saying a word when it came, without a poster or announcement of uproar. But when Jin saw them standing behind the camera, his tears could no longer be held back. Why did all the BTS members gather secretly at the last location of Runjin filming? Why didn't any of them appear in previous episodes, yet suddenly that day, all present? Do they know something that the audience doesn't know? Or was there something hidden from the start? No one expected that Runjin, Jin's first solo variety show project after returning from the military, would actually be his last project, at least for now. But more than just the end of a program, the moment became a kind of emotional show that made everyone wonder what exactly was going on behind Jin's cry. And why is it that when everyone expects laughter, there are wounds? The crew was not informed. The audience is not given a signal. Even the production manager himself admitted that he only found out about the arrival of the members when one by one they stood at the back door of the studio. RM in a simple jacket, J-Hope in a hoodie that was too wide, Suga looking down in silence, V looking straight expressionless, Jimin with puffy eyes as if he had cried before, and Jungkook with a face that words cannot describe. They're all coming. But for what? Is this a form of farewell? Or a form of regret? Over the past few weeks, rumors have circulated in ARMY circles that Jin faced heavy pressure during the production of Runjin. Some fans noticed how Jin's laughter seemed heavier than usual, how his eyes appeared empty in the crowd, and how in some accidentally leaked footage, Jin was seen standing too long alone after the camera went off. But no one really confirmed anything. Until that date, AS filming went on as usual, Jin completed his final challenge. He laughed, shouted as usual, played all the segments already written in the script. But something changed when the director announced the final cut. Jin is silent. He stared at the camera, then turned his body toward the stage, and there they stood, the members in silence. No clapping. Do not shout surprise. Does not bring flowers. Just stand up. And just then, Jin's body shook. Did Jin know they were coming? Or is this part of the plan drawn up by the management and the members themselves? In that moment of silence, only the sound of bated breath was heard. The camera keeps recording. But no one could have expected that the phrase that came out of the mouth of the next genie would change the way everyone saw this moment. With a shuddering voice, Jin just said, "If I knew this was the end, maybe I wouldn't have started from the beginning." And the whole studio was silent. Even the camera had fallen from one of the crew who could not hold back emotions. Did I ask Jin giving up? Is it a farewell to the entertainment industry? Or is it just an outpouring of fatigue after too long shouldering hope? Jungkook advanced first. It says nothing. Just hugged Jin, long, tightly, and with tears that could no longer be hidden. After Jimin, who immediately lowered his head on Jin's lap and hugged him from the side. One by one they formed a circle that no one could penetrate. The crying is real, not drama, not acting. Even the editing team decided not to cut that part because nothing can describe honesty better than their crying. But what happened after that actually made the armies of the whole world wonder, is this really the end? Or is something bigger being prepared? A few seconds after the moment of the hug, Jin took a deep breath, turned to the camera, and delivered one additional sentence. "If only you were all here, maybe I'll start all over again, even if it's harder than before." What does that mean? Is Jin signaling that this is not the end of Jin's run, but the beginning of something new? Or are these just momentary emotional words that came out because of the support of the members? Surprisingly, after that moment, Big Hit announced that all episodes of Run Jin will still be aired in full, but the final episode will undergo re-editing with the addition of a Behind the Truth section that shows the story behind the crying. It's not just an extra episode. This is the answer to all the hanging questions. Why did they all appear in the day? Why is Jin crying? And what was the real meaning of the last sentence he uttered? But many soldiers could not help but ask, why did all this have to happen so suddenly? Why was there no official statement before the last episode aired? Is this a form of media strategy? Or is there an internal conflict that you want to cover up? Issues about Jin's mental distress during production, alleged conflicts between the production team and the show's creative direction, as well as possible disagreements between Jin and management began to surface. But no one could verify anything. The only thing that's certain is that the tears are real, and the wound is too deep to be called acting. The army can only wait. Waiting for whether the words of the genie at the end are really a sign that there will be something new. Or is it just that Jin's way of saying goodbye slowly? What does V actually whisper to Jin when the camera starts to turn off? Why did Suga look like he was holding back his anger when he left the set? And the most puzzling, why does Jungkook seem to not want to take off his arms at all? One thing is for sure, Run Jin is no longer just a variety show. It has turned into a symbol of an emotional journey, sacrifice, sincerity, and wounds that have not yet fully healed. And the question now is no longer, why is Jin crying? Rather, what is really hidden from all of us? And will the genie finally reveal it? Are you ready to hear more? Or are you just not ready to accept that this might really be the end of it all? That day became the quietest night ever felt by the entire production team. Not because there is no sound. Not because everyone is silent, but because there's too much to say, too much to hold, and too many tears to hold. No one expected that Run Jin, which was originally conceived as a form of Jin's emotional recovery after enlistment, would turn into a field of wide-open wounds in front of the camera. Have we all been pretending for too long that they are okay? After the hug ended, Jin begged for the camera to stay on. He didn't want to hide the emotions he felt. Let everything know, he said quietly to the director. If it hurts, let them know. And that's where it all started. No longer a recording for a variety show, no longer a shooting for entertainment, but an honest documentation of a human being who has always looked too strong. Jin sat down on the stage. His eyes were puffy, his hands were trembling, and his breath was short. But his voice began to sound clear as he began to speak. And every word that comes out, like a knife that slices one side by one, the hearts of the members, crew, and all who witnessed. I know you all love me, but I also know not all of you know how hard it is to wake up every morning and pretend to laugh. The sentence struck all who heard. Jimin immediately lowered his head and cried silently. Jungkook rubbed his now wet face, trying to hide the bitter expression he had never shown to the public. RM, who had always been at the forefront of wise words, could only close his eyes, as if asking for time to stop spinning. Run Jin is a dream, but also load. I want to cheer you up, but I also want someone to cheer me up. Is this a sign that Jin has been harboring everything alone for too long? No one knew that when Jin's run started, Jin wrote a letter to the members. The letter was never sent, but that day, he took it out of his pocket. A letter that has been scuffed with almost faded ink. And when he read it, there was no one who did not cry. If you're reading this one day, then I'm done. Either finish with this project or finish trying to pretend. Sorry I never asked for your help. I just don't want you to be burdened. But now I'm tired. I'm too tired to laugh alone. The letter shook the members. J-Hope gets up and hugs Jin from behind, holding him as if to say that everything is enough. That there is nothing more to hide. But when Jin turned his head, there was only a small smile full of wounds. If this is indeed the last episode, I want you to know I never felt alone today. Because you all came, and that is more than enough. But is there a rival really enough? Or is it just a reminder to Jin that he had been struggling for too long alone? Many armies began to associate this moment with previous signals. In one of his previous live performances, Jin had said that there will be a time when I can't joke like I used to. No one took it seriously at the time. Everyone thought it was a joke. But now, that sentence has become too painful to ignore. The last episode was no longer fun. It became a cover, not just for Jin, but for all the wounds that were never given room to heal. The members finally took turns talking. But only one thing really shook ARMY globally: the phrase Jungkook, who had been known as the strong magne, finally collapsed in front of the cameras. "You always said I was strong. I'm only strong when I..." A few hours after the last episode of Run Jin aired, the world seemed to stop. Armies around the world are asking each other, is what they witnessed just now really a farewell? Or just a creative narrative from a variety show? But no one can deny one thing that is most obvious. Jin's tears are real. The tremor of his hands when holding the letter is not acting. And the last sentence he said left thousands of people sleepless that night. "Don't remember me as BTS's Jin today. Remember me as someone who wants to say that he also has limits." Did the genie feel invisible behind her own light? Korean media began to report the moment with caution. But behind their formal words and technical analysis, ARMY's voice is louder, more honest, and more heartbreaking. Fan accounts on Twitter, TikTok, and Weverse flooded the virtual world with slow-motion edited videos, accompanied by sad songs that brought back Jin's words from the last minute. But the most haunting is one video, footage when Jin looks into the camera with wet eyes and says, "The cameras may stop, but the pain won't die just because this episode is over." The sentence stuck, splitting the chest, shaking consciousness. The hashtag seokjin needs rest went viral, overtaking various global political, celebrity, and even sports hashtags. ARMY began writing an open letter to HYBE, pleading for Jin to be given time off without the pressure of a contract, without the compulsion of promotion, without the shadow of the stage. But is that enough? While the world outside was turbulent, the BTS members began to show changes in their uploads. RM no longer posts book excerpts or studio photos. He just uploaded a picture of a rainy window, without words, with a 3-dot emoji. Jimin, who